We are back, baby. Whoa! Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Yanek show. I hope that you're doing well. I hope that your week is going great and you're having great success. This is episode 49. Oh my god, yes, so many episodes, such a deep library now to look at, okay? Today's episode is a continuation of last week's episode where I kind of told you how I write and create stand-up comedy, stand-up comedy routines, evergreen routines that you can travel the whole world with and smash it and sell out theaters and arenas and become a multi-millionaire, just like me. I am a multi-millionaire because of my comedy. My comedy is so good. And you're gonna say, but hold on, Mike, if you're a multi-millionaire, why does your house look the way it does? Well, that is a discussion for another episode. Okay, just want to make a little disclaimer that I am not actually a millionaire. I need to say stuff like that because I need to do this disclaimer, because if you just joined the podcast and if you've never seen this before, you probably think like, oh my god, he has money. So don't even try to slip into my DMs, because you will be disappointed very quickly. Okay, so I have to tell you up front, okay, because everybody's looking for a sugar daddy nowadays, and even though that is a discussion for another episode. Anyway, so last episode I kind of told you how I come up with the whole idea, with the bits and how I structure the stuff, and my folders and all that stuff. Go and watch it if you haven't seen it. It was a bit of an introduction. Today I'll go into full detail so you will know all my secrets, okay? And also, listen, I cannot teach you how to write stand-up comedy. I'm telling you how I write stand-up comedy, what is my crazy process, okay? And I have all the notes and I have to look at them from time to time because I kind of have to know what I'm talking about, okay? But this episode, I'm not going to get distracted, I promise, and we're going to go straight into it. Okay, so listen, how I structure bits, sets, layers, and so on. Okay, now, like I said in the previous episode, I have like these folders, okay, and whenever I write a different punchline or a little bit or a little idea or a short story, I kind of put them in the first draft, document, and then I try to structure. I try to take all the little bits or punchlines or whatever sentences and try to group them into one topic, let's just say. And I gave you an example as I was writing a bit about Love Island, and I actually watched the show, so I had like a few ideas about the actual show, and then I had a few other punchlines that had nothing to do with the show, but they were relatively similar. It was about shallow young people, and the other one, how they behaved. The other one was about young people communicating with each other when they were on dates. And I got this from, I think, was it at the restaurant or something, and I was listening to somebody else's conversation, and I do that quite often. I'll just be honest with you. If you ever see me, somewhere in Liverpool or whatever in public, and you're having a private conversation, and if I'm nearby with somebody else and I'm pretending to eat, I am probably listening in on your conversation, and I'll probably tweet out whatever you're saying, okay? So just be careful, because it's fun, okay? I'm a gossip queen. I like that stuff. It's fun to gossip, and it's fun to know other people's business. You know what I'm saying? Other people's dirty laundry is so much fun, okay? And I just group all these things together, and then I have one bit, okay? So I work bit by bit. I don't start to work on all, like, a few different things at the same time, right? I will use the Love Island bit as an example, okay? So I wrote down everything, everything I've heard, all the things from my phone, all the little punchlines, all the little sentences, and I start as well, all the, like I said last time, I walk around the room and I start talking to my I start talking to myself, and this is how I get a lot of the stuff. I write down everything, and for the next maybe 3, 4, 5, sometimes even a week, for the next few days, I'm just editing. The same way a guy or a girl will sit down with the idea to write a book, and they're gonna do the draft, and then they're going to edit, right? So I just start editing as much as possible. And my rule is, so you get an A4 document. At the end of every row or at the end of every sentence, meaning maybe 2-3 rows max, you have to have a punchline at the end. Okay, so let's say in one row you have, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, 12 words or whatever. One of them, it doesn't have to be always at the end, but you have to have a punchline somewhere. And if you're gonna have a longer premise, meaning maybe sometimes you need to explain what you're talking about a bit, in more detail, and if you do that, then let's say you take two rows without any punchlines because you're just explaining, and that means that the next two rows each need to have two punchlines. You know what I mean? So you need to have as many punchlines as possible because, like I said many times, this is not a TED talk, this is not therapy, this is not public speaking or whatever. You need to make them laugh. That is your job. It's not there to make you feel good or to be like, oh my god, I had such a stressful day, let me tell you about it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to make them laugh. You know what I mean? Because I've been to some shows, mate. Oh, let me tell you, I've been to some shows, and especially when you're gigging and stuff, open mic, I've been at a show where there are like 12 comedians on, and I've seen, oh bro, I've seen some stuff, not only as a comedian but as a because I used to go, before I started comedy, I used to go to comedy shows as an audience member, and I've seen some stuff where I'm just shaking my head and I'm thinking like, what am I watching? You know what I mean? Like, where is this going? Is this a TED talk? What's happening? So you need to have as many punchlines as possible, even though that sounds like a cliche, but it's true. I have this rule. I kind of play this little game in my head. So just imagine that you have, there's like, I love the movie 300, and the whole idea of the movie. I'm not going to go through the whole movie, but you have the Spartan army, which is the 300 blokes, jacked guys, and you have the Persian army, it's like millions or whatever. And the only reason they managed to stand off, for 2 days and keep them at bay for that time is because they chose the location where they were fighting, which was very narrow. On one side was the sea, on the other side was like a mountain or whatever. So I see it, just imagine that there is this narrow pathway and there's like two big mountains on the side, okay? And it's you, and there is like maybe like one or a horde or whatever, like warriors on horses, okay? And their job is to kill you and to pass, okay? I see it this way. Each punchline is a brick or a stone, doesn't matter, okay? The more punchlines you have and the bigger and stronger wall you're going to build, and the people who are invading, they're not gonna kill you. I know it sounds weird and you'll be like, what the hell are you talking about? But I love history and I love like pop culture and all that stuff. So when I saw that movie, this is how I think about comedy now, and it helps me, and it's a fun way to look at it. So let's say I have 15 minutes on stage. I need to have as many punchlines as I can, and a better reception and laughter and all that stuff in order for me to build up my wall so I can be protected. If I don't have enough punchlines, the audience, who is, in this case, the barbarians or whatever, the people who want to come over and kill you, they will destroy you. Because if you don't make them laugh, if you have like two punchlines in a minute, I mean, unless they are like super, like literally the building is shaking, which is very rare to find, but there are some acts. I've seen some acts who have literally 4 punchlines in a minute, but the punchlines is so hard hitting that the thing is shaking. You know what I mean? But you're probably not one of those acts. I'm not one of those acts. You know what I mean? Like, they're very rare. They're like 1 in a million, I think. Very rare occasions. So the more punchlines you have, the safer you're going to be and the better you will do. So this is how I do it, So when I write down the whole thing, I edit. And even sometimes when it's finished, which usually takes like a week, I will highlight where the actual punchlines is, and I will count how many there are. And then when I, eventually I'll tell you how I practice and I learn my bits. I will see how long that bit is. Let's say the bit is 6 minutes, and then I need to calculate, because what was the rule? There was a rule in comedy. You need to have a punchline, like every 7 to 10 seconds or something like that. So yeah, let's just say 10 seconds because it's easier, And let's say it's 5 minutes because I'm bad at math. So that's 30 punchlines, isn't it, for a 5 minute bit? So yeah, I kind of count how many they are. Sometimes if the punchline is really strong, and I think that I maybe even I'll count it as two punchlines if it's super strong and it's gonna get a super long laugh, because sometimes the laugh is like 6 seconds straight and it's so loud that you cannot continue. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, I'll put it down as 2 points. But punchlines super important. You need to have as many as possible. Okay. Now, how I edit. So for me, I try to convey a message with fewer words as possible. Um, like, I'll give you an example. I have this bit about Tinder, a bit about being catfished on Tinder during the quarantine. There was like a big quarantine here in the UK in 2020, because I don't know when are you gonna see this. It was about 4 months or whatever. Anyway, so I was on Tinder a lot because I was super bored, and the whole bit is I need to explain at the beginning what Tinder is, and kind of kickstart the story. Because the thing about me is, when I do bits, I don't do transitions. This is one of the things I do not do. So when I go on stage, if you ever seen me, I do, oh my god, it's been such a long time. I miss stand-up so much. It's been ages since I've been on stage. I don't even feel like a stand-up comedian anymore. I kind of lost my machismo, lost my mojo. You know what I mean? March was the last time. I mean, I had 9 gigs when they lifted up the restrictions for 2 months and a half. But they were kind of like, I mean, they were fun gigs, but it's not, you have one gig, they're like 3 weeks later, you have two, it's weird. But, until March, I was literally gigging 10, 12, 15 times a month. It was very intense. And you feel like a comedian, stand-up comedian. I don't feel it anymore. So hopefully things will go back to normal, with the comedy. But so I needed to explain. Oh yeah, sorry. So I don't do transitions, So I have a bit. First bit, I might talk about, I don't know, about Tinder. The next bit, I might talk about Love Island. The next bit, I might talk about shopping at Asda. The fourth bit, I might talking about listening to people's conversation on the bus, And these are like all different. They are all completely different from each other, and the way I perform them, and the material and the sense of humor is very kind of different from each bit. And the thing about me, which, most comedians, which is quite nice, but I don't do that. Like, when you watch them, they feel like that's your mate in the pub telling you jokes and stories. And I think that's one of the best, type of comedian, is like, you feel like you're, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is me, mate. He's just telling us stories, and they're very casual, and the transitions are, you cannot even see them. You know what I mean? And they're like, oh yeah, and then I went out, I bought new jeans, and because I went to the store, and oh, talking about stores, so I was in Primark the other day, and you know what I mean? And everything is just blended together. But I don't do that. I don't know if it's on purpose. I don't know if it's an accident. I wouldn't say it's a technique or whatever. I'm not, but I don't do it. For me, it's kind of like a book with. I like books that they have. Those books that have short stories, and every story is for themselves. Every story is different, and it's like, when you open the page, this story starts here and this story ends here, and that's it. And then you have the next one and next one and next one. So I kind of see my act as a book with short stories. So literally each bit is its own separate thing. And I do the bit, and I say the last word, and they laugh or they don't laugh or whatever. And I literally take like 2 or 3 seconds until they chill down, and then I start the next thing, which is completely different from anything else, that I've talked a few seconds ago. This is how I like to do my stuff, and I think it's easy for me, because I can always, when I have all the different bits, I quite often mix and match. I have like a list of my repertoire, quote unquote, all the stuff that I can do and all the stuff that I know that work and all that, and so on. So when somebody says, can you do 15 minutes? I'm like, okay, so I'll take this bit, that bit, this bit, that bit. It's kind of mix and match. So I build up, and next to the bits, I have how many minutes roughly is the bit. So I can build up, a list for that evening. And when I don't have transitions, and when I don't have to make everything one long story, or to seem that goes with anything else that I've said, I don't have to worry about that, because I can open with this bit, then talk about this, then talk about aliens, then talk about, I don't know, Asda or whatever, So I don't have to worry. So it's quite easy for me, and I enjoy that style. You know what I mean? I think it's a little bit different. It kind of keeps you on edge because you never know what's gonna happen, and you have to. I don't know. It's kind of like, because sometimes I zone. Like for me, when I watch comedy, I zone out very easily because I have like a wild imagination. So even sometimes if somebody is talking to me, and if you don't keep me interested, doesn't matter if I'm watching something, if I'm watching comedy, if I'm watching a movie, I zone out. I literally start imagining stuff. And I had cases when I was a fan of comedy, just going as an audience member. I go to a show, and I mean it's okay, but like kind of zone out because it all feels like one big story, and if you don't capture me at a certain time, you kind of lose me. So I'm just like, whatever, because when I zone out, it kind of sounds the same to me. It sounds like this one long thing, you know what I mean? But when I you have these like completely different bits and styles from each other, I don't know, it's kind of like restarting the pace again, and I enjoy that. It works for me. I don't know, everybody's different. Some people enjoy it, other people don't enjoy it. I had people who were telling me you need transitions, other people were telling me no, you don't. Like, everybody's different, but it works for me and I enjoy it. So once I write down everything, once I edit everything, I highlight, the bits. Then I have to sit down and just read out. Let's say that the bit is finished, okay? And like I said, I try to convey a message with as fewer words as possible. Like I said, let me just finish with the Tinder bit. Um, when I say, so I need to explain to people because not everybody knows what Tinder is. You never know who's in the audience. So pretty much Tinder, it's a dating app. You go there, you click, like or dislike on a picture with some information. If the other person clicks like and you click like, you're allowed to message each other. And a lot of people message each other, and there's a lot of catfish, and sometimes people get together and hook up, and there's a lot of disaster stories, there's a lot of weird opening lines. So this is the concept. So how are you gonna get these fucking 6 sentences, which is probably this much in a page, and you're gonna convey it into 4 or 5 words? So my bit starts like this: Tinder is a dating app. I got catfished recently. And that's it. You see? It's like you literally took all of this and you shrunk it down to how many dollars? 12 words, 15 words or something? I haven't checked. And everybody knows, oh, it's a dating app, so you know it. So you know what dating is? It's an app, so it's on your phone, because later on the later on throughout the bit, um being on phone, that's kind of, I wouldn't say it's important, but people need to know. It's an app, so it's on your phone, it's online, because it's an app, it's online. I got catfished recently, and everybody knows what catfished is. If they don't know what the word means, maybe there's a foreigner in the audience, or maybe somebody old person, they haven't heard this word. Later on, when you explain, some of the jokes, they kind of know what that is. So you kind of conveyed that message literally in 10 words, and that's the biggest thing I see. Like editing, I see so many comedians that I'm gigging and stuff like that, that they just explain it too long. It doesn't have to be too long. Like, your job is to get, like, this is even how I see it. The thing before the punchline is just there, so they so you can hold their hands and take them to the punchline. They want to be at the punchline. Just imagine that the punchline is a strip club, okay? And there is this big road, and it's your thing, because you're the tour guide of that city, to take them to the strip club. They just want to go there and see some titties. You know what I mean? You don't have to take them through town and see all the statues and this and that and explain to them the history of the city and the buildings. They don't care. Just take them so they can have some titties in their face. So this is how I see comedy. You're the tour guide. It's your job to take them to the punchline. But obviously you need to explain it in a way and have the premise, the road, so they know that they've arrived and they can enjoy it and they have fun. And that's it. Don't take them all around town. Just take them to the strip club so they can see titties. That's your job. So this is how I see myself. I want this part to be as short as possible before the kaboom. You know what I mean? Or another way we can look at it is, on the when I was watching the Road Runner, and he always have Wiley Coyote and the Road Runner. He always has those dynamites, like the big dynamite sticks, and he has, how is that thing called? The little string of the dynamite. I don't know the word of it, but like, your job is the string needs to be as short as possible. So you can get quicker to the kaboom. and that's it. And just have as much dynamite and as much kaboom as possible. Just don't explain it that much. Like, yeah, the way I'm doing now, over explaining, but this is a podcast, so it's okay. But if you're on stage, this will not work. Just rambling and shit, you know? So, yeah, so once I've done all the editing, everything's finished, right? Then I read out the bit, okay? Because, and just reading it out, not doing any accents, any funny voices, any moves, nothing. Just sitting down and reading out what you've read. And if it makes you laugh and if it makes you giggle, in my case, how I know that a punchline or a bit is really good, if I start laughing and I start questioning myself, you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck am I doing? You know what I mean? Because my comedy is very silly, and I just see it in a way like I'm 31. All my mates that I grew up in Bulgaria, and I'm not exaggerating, they're all doctors. They all work. Two of them were like, how do you call those people who take the scans, you know, the x-ray scans or whatever? This is a very profitable profession in my country. They are all, I know a guy who's a lawyer now. Some of them are like, I don't know, studying movie directing or whatever. Some of them, they're mostly doctors and lawyers, but they're all very like esteemed profession, and they're all my age, and I'm here, I'm 31, and I'm writing dick jokes or like fake tan jokes or like botched plastic surgery, or you know what I mean, just some silly goofy shit, goofy shit, while these people been to university for 4 years, 6 years, 8 years. You know, they all drive nice cars and they all have families and houses, and I'm here writing stupid shit. And if I start questioning my lifestyle and I'm like, what am I doing? But I'm laughing about it, then I know that bit is a very good bit. And it always worked that way, because when I go on stage and do it a few times and it goes fucking well, and then I was like, yeah, there's something here. If you reach a point where you're questioning your existence because of the stuff that you're writing, then you're doing a good job, I think, you know? But in my case, yeah, because I write goofy shit. Then I read it out. Now, I have places where I know that the punchline is very strong. I just know it, okay? I don't even need to try it on stage. I know it sounds weird, but I just know that it's super funny. And if I tell it to 5 comedians or people who have great sense of humor, they'll die laughing. But but that's like 20% of the cases, maybe even 10 when you finish a bit. That's rare, you know what I mean? If you have 60 punchlines, maybe 5 of them, 6 of them don't need even to be done in front of a crowd. You know that's funny. And about 40 to 50% of them are kind of wobbly. So I'm not even sure, you know what I mean? You kind of like, oh, this will need some work. I need to try it on stage in front of a few crowds, and then I need to go and redo it and maybe improvise or switch it at in the moment we're on stage, just change something at the last second to see what reaction you're going to get. And then you have punchlines where you're like, I think this will work, I'm pretty confident, but let's just try it out. And then you will also have these little things that you don't even see them as punchlines. They're a little transition or little like just a little word to set up something. And you have this thing, which is the weirdest thing ever. You go on stage, you start doing your bit, you start doing your material, and you be like, and then blah, blah, blah. Because she, wore a blue sweater. And it's not even, it's just a throwaway thing, and you're ready to continue. And all of a sudden, they will all explode laughing. The crowd, they will be like, and you will stop because you cannot continue. When they're laughing, do not talk over them. Do not, you know what I mean? In some cases, you can get away with that, but it really depends on the bit, and you're just building up. You know what I mean? When they're laughing, you're just screaming and ranting, and you're building up. But usually, you do a punchline, you let them laugh, and then you continue. And you just stop, and you're thinking like, what the hell? As they're laughing, and you will play it off as a guy or a girl that know what you're doing, and you'll be like, oh yeah, of course, I meant this to be funny. But you were thinking like, why are they laughing at that word, And obviously, you will record your set. I mean, come on, if you're not recording your set, what are you doing? I learned that. I was very fortunate that I was surrounded by some good people, and I learned that maybe 2 months into comedy or 3 months, I started recording my sets, which was very beneficial. And then when you listen back to it, you'll be like, okay, maybe there is something here, So you need to pay attention, at all those details. But I will tell you, how I go on stage, what happens on stage, what happens after gigs, and all that stuff. Maybe in episode 3. I don't think I'll have enough time for it. Hold on. Let me see how much I've done. I need to have a huge clock. You know what? You know what I need to buy? I need to buy 25. I need to buy a huge clock. I'm not joking. I'll buy a huge clock, or like, and when I'm pressing record, I'll just press it because I never know how much I've done, and I always need to do this. How much, and I need to do this. It doesn't look professional, okay, Mike Yanek? Because after New Year's Eve, there's gonna be changes to the podcast. Slowly but surely, I'm trying to develop this as much as possible. Okay, so you read out everything, okay, and then you try to do as many edits as you can. Also, just leave the bit to marinate. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to. Sometimes I do a bit and I leave it for weeks, even months, before I go on stage and try it. You know what I mean? Everybody's different, but I usually, because I write during the quarantine, I wrote so much, and I like to do long bits, like 5, 6, 10, 12 minutes, when I start writing. So I have a bunch of material. So it's not like I don't have material, so I need to, you know what I mean? Oh my God, I'm booked for 10 minutes this evening, so I need to do it, you know what I mean? So sometimes I just leave a bit, and when you leave it and when you go back to it, and like when it's ready and you go back to it in a few days or a week, a new things pop up, or you see this a little bit different, new perspective shows up, or maybe you lived a little bit more, and you know what? Well, I went to the shop the other day, and this woman was dressed very crazy, and well, the bit that you're writing is about, I don't know, fashion sense of women versus fashion sense of men. And you'll be like, I can add this. And you can always work on it. You can always add little stuff. Now, when I'm completely happy with the way that this thing reads, just sitting down and reading it, I'm like, I'm happy. There's enough punchlines, there's enough jokes, I think it flows well. I can do a good job with this bit. Then what I do is, I actually take, on my phone or whatever, I start reading it, and here, in my place, I start practicing it, but I try to figure out how I can add as many jokes by the way I speak, the way I deliver the material, because you might have a great bit written down in solid material, but if you're not a good performer, you're not gonna do such a good job. And I've seen the opposite. I've seen very weak material, but it's delivered so well and so confidently, and there's so many voices and impressions and faces and movement, and it flows so well, and the timing is so good that it's a killer bit. But on paper, it's very weak material, So you need to know. I need to know. Hold on, sorry, this is not a how-to tutorial. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. This is how I do shit. So I need to know how. I don't want to become like a fucking. Teaching comedy is a weird thing, to be honest with you, but that's a different thing. But yeah, so I need to learn how to have solid material and how to perform well. Because if I combine those two, then I become very confident in that bit. I have bits in my repertoire now, that I've tried so many times, and I learn how to do them, that I'm solid confident in them. You know what I mean? And I will even trick the audience into laughing, even if they don't really want to. They are solid bits, but because I'm confident in them, and you can see that I'm confident when I'm doing them, they will kind of laugh and stuff. They'll go along with it, and they'll enjoy it. So I just try to see how many faces I can do. I love to do faces, and I love to do physical comedy, and I like to challenge myself, meaning like I want to learn how to do accents, how to do impressions, how to do little things, you know what I mean? And it was nerve-wracking the first time I tried to do a different voice. It was nerve-wracking, and it didn't work out, and I panicked and I bailed on it. I tried it in my house many times, and it worked perfectly. I don't remember. I think it was like one of those voices. It was like a squeaky voice of a person that I don't know, and I tried it on stage. But oh my God, it did not work. My voice actually broke, and I couldn't speak, and I kind of panicked, but I've tried it many times at home, even on the podcast, and it's easy to do. And I panicked, and I did it for like 5 seconds, and they were like, "What's happening?" And I just like, and then I continue in my normal voice. But then eventually, the more you do it, the more you do it. And now, the last time, even before the lockdown, I did like this long bit where I did an American accent from Texas. I did an accent of like a very, like, oh my god, like stereotypical. In California, you have those stereotypical white girls. There was a movie called White Chicks, probably that, like the very stereotypical, and another voice, in the Love Island bit for the 7 minute bit, and it went great. And that was the first time I've ever done the bit. But because, with the more experience you go on stage, and the more I challenge myself, the more I try to do voices and movement and all that stuff, I managed to do those voices without problem. And I've always said that I love when a comedian is not only a guy or a girl who goes up there in sweatpants and tells jokes. Buh, 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 buh. For me, I'm telling you, person, I'm not bashing anybody. I'm just telling you, as an audience member, I want entertainer on stage. I don't want a joke teller. I want a person who can do the voices, the impressions, keep me interested. I want to see the flow. I want to see your range. You know how they say for the actors, this actor has so much range in his acting. I see the comedy the same way. I've seen, like, you might be the funniest guy, girl, in between animal, pet, dog, whatever you are on stage. You might be the funniest. And I'll probably die laughing. But if you just stand there with the mic and telling jokes, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's some amazing acts, but for me as an audience member, I will still enjoy it. And some of my favorite comedians are just joke tellers, but I would really appreciate it, and I'll be like, wow, what, that was amazing. You know what I mean? Because there's a difference between that was awesome, man, I had so much fun, that was cool, and be like, my mind is blown. This is like I've seen live performances, music, concerts or comedians or stuff where I'm like, this is a life changing experience. You know what I mean? And I'm not even talking about in person, because in person that's a different experience. I'm talking about even on the television. The first time I saw Freddie Mercury perform, I was like, what is this? I've never, unfortunately, I'm too young, but I've never seen him perform live. But first time I saw him, I think it was like the Wembley concert or something, and I was like, what is happening? And Michael Jackson and stuff, like, he was insanely good. I've never seen him in person. I've seen concerts. He is unbelievable. Like in the 80s and 90s, Michael Jackson is unstoppable. And I was like, what is that? That's like a life-changing thing. The first time I saw Cat Williams perform stand-up comedy, I was like, this is something I've never seen in my life. The first time I saw Eddie Murphy perform, you know what I mean? Coming out, I think it was Delirious, with the red jumpsuit, leather jumpsuit, and I was like, what is this? This is crazy. So, you know what I mean? I love life-changing performers, and I love Elvis Presley as well. I know he's a meme, especially to the young generation. Half of them don't even know who he is, but if you see Elvis Presley in his prime, the black and white tapes where everybody's losing their mind, that guy was unbelievable. You know what I mean? Especially for his time, unheard of performer like that, and I like to see performers, entertainers give me something. So when I go home, I wouldn't be able to sleep because I saw you performing. You were funny, you crushed it, of course, everybody laughed, but you were just like, oh my god, because you have people like me in the audience. You know what I mean? I don't only go as an audience member, I go to study people. Whenever I go to a show, doesn't matter, whenever I'm watching some form of entertainment, is it wrestling, is it music, is a sitcom, is an animated show, I'm studying that shit. I am enjoying it, but I'm studying. So when I go and see you, I don't care if you're open mic or if you sell out arenas, I'm going to study you, and I'm looking at you as an audience member, but I'm looking at you as a fellow comedian, as a fellow artist, as a person who wants to be in entertainment, as entertainer, whatever it is. And you just give me that, give me that raw energy. You know what I mean? That's what I like. So for me, it's very important to layer the bit as much as possible, to put as much stuff, as many faces. If I can put a little accent in there, like a little bit, maybe a character, or like create like a little mini, maybe even for a minute, just like a little movie, little universe, something in it inside that bit. put a little character, or maybe just break off and be like, oh, I saw a commercial the other day, because I was thinking about that, and just reenact the commercial, create a character for that. It's gonna be 25 seconds, 30 seconds, those little infomercials. Oh, my name is whatever the hell, I'm selling this, it's great shit, buy it, whatever. Create a little character for that, I just want to challenge myself, and I'll be like, okay, I'll create that character. I will use it one time probably in my whole comedy career, and it's going to be for 25 seconds, But I'll sit there, I'll create his name, create his surname, maybe a bit of backstory, give him an accent, and just try to challenge myself, because it becomes so much more interesting, so much fun for the audience, so much fun for you, and you can grow, because just because I'm in stand-up doesn't mean that I don't want to do other stuff. I don't want to just stop with stand-up. I want to try many stuff. So yeah, I just need to read it, and the bit is finished when I have as many layers as I can, So I want to make that structure of the bit as strong as possible, that foundation, the foundation, which is, the writing needs to be phenomenal, very good. Then you need to have the performance, and then you need to have the little extra, accents and faces and this and that, and timing as well, And that's about it. I think, did I finish about? Yeah, I finished. Did I finish? I think I finished. Hold on. That's about it for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, overtime even. See, I'm giving you extra knowledge over here. Okay, next episode in the next episode, I will tell you how I practice and learn my material, how I actually make it ready for stage, how I memorize my material because I have bad memory, and I will tell you how I test new material on stage, how I revise it, and probably in the next episode after that, I will tell you how I prepare before gigs, my rituals, what happens during the gig, what goes through my mind. I've never told this to anybody, but what goes through my mind on stage. Then I come back, what I do after gigs, when I'm in the clubs or in the venues, how I come home and relax and unwind and all that stuff, so I can sleep, because at the beginning I had issues, I couldn't sleep, I was so excited. Okay guys, hope you enjoyed this episode. I will see you next week. Thank you so much for watching, and be on the lookout, because this show is slowly but surely we're morphing 2021, and I have big goals, and it's going to be great, because we're starting season 2 or whatever the hell that is. Okay, enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye. Dun 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 dun.